Hi everyone, welcome to my Thursday night mini class. And what are we going to do tonight? Tonight we're going to do a continuous border pillowcase. These are beautiful and easy to make, and they have no raw edges on the inside. Everything is perfectly finished. The continuous border can be done with virtually any machine. Of course, the Babylock and the Brother machines make it easier because they have some features in there that just make it easier to do a continuous border. Start this pillowcase project. You're going to need your body of your pillowcase about 27 inches long. Of course, measure your pillow. So it depends on whether you've got a queen or a king size pillow. You may want to make this larger than what I'm telling you. I'm telling you how to cut it for a standard pillowcase. So you're going to need your body fabric about 27 inches long by the width of the fabric, from selvage to selvage. You're going to need your cuff fabric, and I'm using a contrasting color, approximately 9 inches wide. And then if you want to put an accent stripe, you want to use anything between an inch and an inch and a half strip from selvage to selvage, and you're going to fold it in half and crease it really good. Okay. For your cuff, again, it's 9 inches. So how we need to mark this for a continuous border or any kind of border or any kind of embroidery. So what you're going to take your 9-inch piece, you're going to fold it in half. And of course, it's cut from selvage to selvage. Give it a good press. Okay. Now, this is going to be like your center here. So this would be the edge of your pillow. Of course, here's the rest of it. It would be like that. Okay, so you're going to, any embroidery design you want to do is going to have to face the fold of this cuff. To find the center of this, you're going to fold this in half again and give this a good crease. Take one side and crease it. I would mark off about 3/4 of an inch to an inch away from the selvage edge. Notice when I press it, I didn't cut them off because I might need that to help hoop it. So this will be fine, just leave it. But if you're pressing it, just make little cuts. Whenever you are pressing it, then it's going to expand it, because this shrinks. The selvages always shrink more than the fabric itself. Okay, so I made a line here. Again, I folded this in half. And this line, you can make a line 1/2 inch from the cut edge and 1/2 inch from the fold if you like. But what you do need to mark is, of course, this line right here. And I'm going to mark the fold all the way down. I want a nice good line with an erasable pencil. Make this one so that you can see it pretty well. I tend not to use the friction pins on the center line because sometimes those friction pins will show up, and they will definitely show up when it gets cold again. So you want a line all the way down. If you like, you can go ahead and put another line 1/2 inch from the fold, just to remind you, don't stitch over that line. The reason I did this extra line is because this way I can tell whether I'm straight or not. Now you're going to put this center line all the way down from one edge of your fabric to another, because this is the line you're going to use to hoop it the entire way. On the opposite side, you want to also put another line, because mostly because once you sew it, you leave about 1/2 inch for French seam, so you don't want to sew much beyond this line. Okay, now we're ready to start hooping it. I'm going to use a tearaway stabilizer, but you could use a wash away. Don't use a cutaway, because you don't, especially if it's light, because you're going to see it shadow through. You would want to spray this with a few layers of spray starch. It just helps your stitching go better. You also might want to have a can of KK 2000 or 505 adhesive spray to help hold this down. So now we're going to hoop it. This is about a 3-inch by 6-inch design, so I can use my 5x7 hoop or larger hoop. So this will fit here nicely. I'm also later on going to be using my large 9.5 by 14-inch frame so that I can get more than one design in at a time in one hooping. That's why you will see that I've already done this side, because I've used a wide piece of stabilizer, and then I've gotten one side, and now I will come back and do the other side. So now let's take a look at this hoop here. The hoops have these little bumps here that are actually in the plastic, but you can never see them. So I took a Sharpie marker and just darkened them so that I could see these. And this is going to help you to put your hoop on straight. So another thing you can use is you can use the grids that came with your machine. I'm going to put the insert into the hoop so that you have a top and a bottom to your hoop. There's also marked a little triangle, and that's the top of your hoop. So you want that triangle to be at the top, and you want your insert just has a little cutout so that it sits in there snugly. Now take a look at some of these. Okay, look, we always thought this is the center of your hoop. It is not in this particular case. The grid is showing you that it's approximately 1/8 of an inch to the left. That will be important if you are trying to hoop something that is exactly 5x7 and you have no wiggle room. You have no room to move your needle up and down or your hoop back and forth, or even rotate it a little bit. So that would mean you would have to hoop it totally perfect the first time. And this is what helps you do it, because this is your exact center of your embroidery field. Note, it is not the same as the notches. That your embroidery field is inside the box. So like, say if you had hooped it this way and your design came out to here, it wouldn't stitch. So I know I've got to start with, this will help it get it straight, because I can get these lines, and you don't necessarily have to use the center one. You just have to use one of these lines. I suggest the center, and you want it so that the inside, this line, which is right here, is inside the sewing field. I'm going to spray this down, so I'm just going to use a little bit of KK 2000 and spray this down so that it's nice and straight. So now I'm going to place this inside the embroidery field, because this is 6, this is 7 inches. I need just 6. I'm just going to slip this underneath. I know it's not going to go beyond that, so I can actually use one of these thinner lines. I'm going to put in 2 corners while I am maintaining this straight line, keeping it as straight as I possibly can. And then I'm going to slide the bottom into the top and just squeeze down. Okay, so now I know everything is going to fit. It's nice and straight. Notice that line is almost completely hidden. Okay, now this is ready to go to the machine. Okay, I've loaded the design into my machine. And it's called Pillowcase. Okay. And note it has 3 colors. Okay. The outer candle wicking, the inner, which is green, although it says black, is for the leaves, and the center I'm going to do in a rose color. And so it's ready to stitch. Okay. Now, if your machine has the ability to use a continuous border function, which would be in this edit, and nope, not this one. Okay, in the first edit screen, you'll see this that looks like 9 boxes. That is your continuous border function. And just to explain the continuous border function, it does several things. It allows you to set up more than one instance of it, which we will do later on. But you have both vertical and horizontal. You have this key up here, which is your selection key. This is the splitting horizontal, the splitting vertical, the splitting horizontal, and we'll talk about that later. So what we do is this allows me to add another motif at the top. So I'm just going to move this one up because we're going to come back and reset this. Okay, and I want to add another border at the top, or at the bottom. So this plus at the bottom adds another one automatically. These below at the end change the spacing. So that pulls it apart, this pushes it back together. Okay. This restores it to the original design. Now, then again, if I had this down here, I would use this, and now it puts it at the top. I can now take these over here, switch to the horizontal, and now when my plus and minuses are on the side, so if I add a plus there, look at that, it adds another row. And this right here, I could split it apart or put it closer together. It is up to you. And then this can move it around, up and down. That's the whole thing. That's the beauty of it. You can create your own fabric with a single motif, make something that's totally unique. The split. This gives you a knife, so you can tell it I want to split it there. Say if you had several of them. Well, let's just go ahead and put something else in here, little. Okay, I'm going to make a border of A's. Okay, and turn this into a continuous border, so I will add a bunch of them. Okay. The split here makes it so that you tell it, I want to separate that one away from the other, or that one, or whichever one, and I'm going to hit the knife, so that's going to select that one. So now when I move the keys, and I select this one, they act as a group. It's sort of a grouping tool. Okay, I'm going to go back to my design. And my pillowcase. Okay, so now I have that one. I'm only using the 5x7 hoop, and as you can see, this outer edge right there, that's the extent of my 5x7 hoop, and it's just a display. It also will not allow me to stitch above that too. With this particular model of machine, it won't let me go up above once I put the hoop into the machine. But there's other things. Now I'm going to put these together with a larger hoop. If you noticed, with the larger hoop, I could make it. I could put two and therefore utilize that 14-inch hoop, but I'm not going to at the moment. Put that back in the center. I'm just leaving it in the center for now because there's another important feature that I like to use with this, which is putting in the registration marks. If your machine does not have a camera or a projector, these registration marks will come in handy when it's time to rehoop. So I'm going to go and select that key. It's like a down arrow. And here, I only have one. You would tell it what motif you're selecting. Right now we only have one, so those are grayed out. So this I can tell it where I want. I'm going to hoop down next time. So I want to put these 3 registration marks in there. And what it does is it's going to stitch in little arrows at the bottom of the motif so that when you rehoop it, it will allow you or it'll enable you in order to line up the next hooping. And I'm just going to hit OK for now. So I'm going to embroidery. Okay, I am going to go here. Okay, and I want to align it with the center top Here is where I want to start stitching. That's the top, and I'm probably going to come down by about 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little less than that. And for this, I am going to, you could use your snowman if you have them available to your machine. That will help you to go straight. And to check that you're straight, I'm going to do both. So I'm now set, my needle is at the top center of the embroidery hoop. So now I can use my move key. So I hit edit and move, and I can use the arrow keys to align this right where I'm okay, that's about exactly, see, my needle is right there on that line, so that is making me happy. Okay, now I can check this by going back, back over here. This time check the bottom. Okay, now when I look at this, my needle it should be on that same line. If it isn't, you have not hooped this straight. And you have two options. Pull it out and rehoop it again till it is perfect, or use the rotation in order to rotate the degree a little bit. It's perfectly right on. Using those grids makes a big difference. Okay, so now this is ready to stitch. I have threaded the machine with the blue it's going to do the candle wicking first. Oh, the other thing, which is not evident right now, okay, there are 3 colors in this design, but I'm only using one instance of it. So you see pink, black, and green. If I had 2 instances, you'll see this the next time we do the next hooping, is that when you have used the continuous border, it will automatically color sort it. So instead of doing the top section, red, black, and green, and then it will come down here and do the second one, red, black, and green. The continuous border function on your machines for both the Brothers and the Babylock machines means that it's going to color sort it. So you only have to change threads once. We're ready to stitch. And let's do the candle wicking first. I'm going to stop it for a second. It's hard to see. It did a line all the way down. So this is near the line that's near the 1/2 inch mark. If it's crooked, I'm going to see it, and that way I can stop and fix things right away. So, but it's fine, so I'm going to leave it alone and stitch on. And this is going to do all of the candle wicking first. So this is like watching grass grow, so I will come back when it is done stitching. Okay, finished the blue candle wicking. Looks just good. Then I loaded the next color, which is green for the leaves, although the color says black. But I pick whatever color I like. And again, it's going to stitch both of these rows. And I will be back as soon as it's done stitching. Okay, now the center is ready to go. Now what I have done to my machine is I've turned the scissor off at the end of the color, simply because if I am not so perfect in the next time I've hooped this, I've got a little thread here that I can use to bridge between, especially if I leave a little gap to fix things. So I like to leave that sort of off to the edge until I'm done, and that way I can fix things. Okay, now it's ready for color stop number 3, which is the rose. Okay, notice it is now, that was the last stitch of the design, so now the machine has jumped over to the right hand side and it's going to put in the tick marks. So it's going to put in the little arrows. We'll take a closer look at those in a minute. It's going to put the 3 sets down, so the right, the center, and the left. You can change the color if you want to, but I just left it with the pink. And remember, if your machine doesn't cut jump stitches, you're going to have to cut all these. Okay, now we're ready to rehoop this for the next one. Okay, now taking it out of the hoop because I'm going to hoop it again. But take a close look at these tick marks. Here's this one on the left, makes a little arrow. One is here down the center. And then you've got this one on this side. That's going to help you to align the next one. I'm going to use this same line that we used before to align things. So I want this on top of there. And this is my center line that goes all the way down to the other end of the fabric. This is on top here. This is what I'm concerned about being straight. Nothing else is straight. Make sure that's straight. Then I'll put my hoop in. And I want this line right here. Just scoot it. You can also use double-sided tape to help you to align this. There you go. That line is perfect. Okay. We are good to go. Let's go to the machine. The design, it's still the same. I'm not changing anything there. I'll use the move keys, which are these arrow keys right here, in order to move the hoop up and down. Only this time, here is that tick mark. You can see that I want to make sure it's not quite right. Okay, so I'm going to move it a little bit. All righty, here we go. Is that right now? I think that's good. Now to check to see if I've rotated it, I'm going to go back to that same screen, and this time I'm going to select this upper left. Check that, and that's in the exact same spot, so that's good. And what I'm doing is I'm selecting this one now. I did the center, that one. I'm going to check it. Look. It is in the exact same spot. If all three are going back into the exact same needle hole, I rest assured that design is going to look good. Okay, so now I'm going to raise that up. And just to be sure, I'm going to check this center bottom. I want to make sure I have on a long line hooped it right, and I did. It's fine. Okay, so now I'm ready to stitch. Loaded the blue thread into the machine, and now let's just go ahead and stitch. It's going to start back with the candle wicking, and let's see if we'll know if it's right or not in just a minute. Okay, and I'm looking. I don't know if you can see this. No, you can't. I'll wait till it comes up. Okay, we're seeing the pink thread in between, so it's a little distracting, but that's just perfectly spaced and it's good to go. So I'm going to continue stitching. I'm going to go ahead and stitch the whole motif just like I did last time, and then I will be back. And see, you can see it's just perfectly lined up. Okay, now I'm ready for the next one. But the difference is I'm going to use my larger hoop, and I have marked over here where the edge of my hooping is. This particular model does not have a grid, so I am relying on these black marks that I made. And then over here, if I want to be safe, my sewing field is 14 inches. So if I am inside this line over here, I'm okay. That's why I made the marks. I'm utilizing the whole piece of stabilizer. going to use this mark because I know that's the inside of my stitching. So if I'm good right there, I'll slip this hoop underneath, which is this one. I'll just slide it up underneath. Okay. This second tick mark I'm using as my center. I'd like to hoop it as close to perfect as I can. That's less adjustments I have to make. So now we're ready to take this over to the machine and align it up. Notice I still have the tick marks, but we're going to do something slightly different with the machine because we have a 14-inch hoop. Okay, here we are. Here's the design. I've loaded the large hoop into the machine, and now we're going to turn this into a multiple. So I want to move it up a little bit, at least till there's my crosshair for center. I'm going to go to continuous border, and I'm going to select add one below. Okay, they're a little bit crunched up, so I'm going to space that out a little bit so that it lines up a little better. Okay, so I'm going to go back to, or go to embroidery. I'm going to set that so that it's again at the top center. Okay, I'm going to take my move key, go to edit and move, and now scoot this over till it's right on the line. And up a bit. So now that it looks about right, but I'm going to come over to the camera. If you have the Destiny or the Solaris or the Brother Luminaire or the Dream Machine, you have a built-in camera, and we're going to utilize that to see if we're straight or not. You could also use the snowman, which I'm not going to cover that in this lesson, but however, or the targeting pen, whichever way you have for targeting your designs. So again, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to scan it in so I can see what I've got. So I come over to the scanner, which is right there, and it's going to I'm going to let the machine scan it. Okay, and I'm going to look very carefully at my screen, especially up here. So I notice up here, it is not quite right. So I'm going to scoot it over a little. It's sort of right in the middle, so I think I'm pretty safe into stitching. It looks pretty good where the join is, but we will know in just a second whether it works or not. What I'm going to look for next, right down, it's going to start stitching right down the center here and go all the way down to the end. So I want to, just in a few stitches, I'm going to know if this is right or not. So I've got blue loaded in, and I have extra thread here. Okay, and let's go. So I'm going to look in just a few stitches. I'm going to know, is that right or not? I don't know if you can see it. I don't think you can, but it is right down the center where it was before. So I'm good to let it go. And so it is now going to stitch. Now instead, let's take a look here. See, it's still showing. It's still showing that there are 6 colors. But what will happen is it's going to blow right through those first color stop without stopping and continue, and it won't stop until it is done with that red color. I'm going to stitch it in blue, but you get the idea. So it's going to stitch that. This is done stitching. This is the large, and it looks just as nice. See how nice and straight it is? It's right even with the line. I'm going to go ahead and continue all the way down till I come to the very end. And I'll probably have one more large hooping and probably one more with the 5x7, and then I will be back. I have stitched all along the whole width of the fabric, and now I'm coming to the end. There isn't enough for a double. I'm not even sure if there's enough for a single. It may run over, and that's okay. So what I did is I just simply put a little extra stabilizer, although I think it will be fine, and I'm going to use my grid marks again. And see inside, this is just inside here. This one is just, the bottom is just inside there. We're good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and hoop this and do the last one. Now it's perfectly aligned. All of my stitching is falling within the grid. And now we're going to do the very last stitching, just like we did before. This is all finished stitching. Notice about a half an inch away from the edge. That's fine. If it really bothers you, you could do another hooping and go ahead and stitch just a few stitches into it. Just watch it and then stop as it goes beyond. But this is near the seam line, so I'm not going to really be worried about it. So I'm just going to let that go and be done. Okay, so now I'm going to remove all of the stabilizer. I'm going to tear most of it away, and then I'm going to just soak this in clear water to get the marks out, press it, and then I will be back. See where these two lines didn't quite meet? If you leave an extra tail, or just if you take some extra thread and just thread a needle and just join the two lines together, so you cannot tell where one ended, one started and one stopped, and just take it on the back and just give it a knot. And we're good to go. And just do that wherever you see a gap. Okay, and then clip it. And you can't even tell. See? To get rid of all the marks, I just simply soaked it in water just for a little while until the backing dissolved, and then I removed most of it. Some of it's still in the stitching. It doesn't really matter. If you use it to dissolve away, it will completely go away. Then you want to press it really well. So I would recommend getting a pressing mat, such as this. And then you're going to press it, the embroidery side down. That way it doesn't crush it or make it really shiny. So you get this nice and pressed, and give it a good couple layers of spray starch. And actually now we're ready to start constructing the pillowcase. So I'm going to need my 27-inch piece by the width of fabric. Here it is. I'm not going to cut the selvages off yet. And I did check it, so it's going to, when I fold this in half, it's right about the same size. So that's actually going to work really well. And then I have my 1-inch strip that I took, and I pressed it in half, and I actually used a little bit of Elmer's washable school glue to bond it together. And then of course I heat set it down. So that's what we're going to start with. And I'm going to just simply lightly touch the glue to the raw edges, and I'm going to put this on the right side, line this up, and heat set this down. It's heat set, it's not going to go anywhere. And if, like, I didn't quite get it right there, it does, you can just simply remove it, reapply the glue. Actually, I can't really see the edges. It's right on the edge. And heat set this down. Takes only a second in order to heat set it down. This way it's nice and flat, and you don't have to worry about pins. And I'm going to go ahead and put this strip all along the entire width of the fabric. Now it's heat set down, so it's not going anywhere. Don't worry if these aren't exactly even. We're going to match up all to one side. I'm not even taking the selvages off just yet, because all of these widths are slightly different, but I'm going to make them all, I'll make it all work. Okay, now we take our piece here, okay, and I'm going to start, again, I'm not going to cut off my selvages, I'm just going to leave it. I am going to glue baste this down, same way. This, you don't want to put the glue past the 1/4 inch mark. So you're going to be real careful. Although it's no big deal if it does, this all washes out. It's great stuff. Okay, again, heat set these together. And then you want to use spray starch when you're pressing the cuff so that it's nice and crisp. And I have it nice crisply pressed in half. Okay, and then I'm going to glue this all the way across just like I did the strip. And see, here's the inside, the right sides together. Okay, I'll be back in a moment when I have finished glue basting all this together. Okay, I'm going to start here, and I have a crease down the center here of my fabric. So I'm going to come over here about 1 inch away. I'm just going to put a couple pins in it just to hold it. Okay, I'm going to come to this side. I want it nice and straight. This is wrong sides down on the cuff, right sides, so that the cuff and the pillowcase are right sides together. The pillowcase body is right sides together. I'm just going to straighten this all out. It's easy, like I said, this is easier on a cutting table, and I want to make sure that there are no creases or funny business going on. So here's the crease here, here's the crease here, it's all good. All right, so now I'm going to fold this in half again, take that pin out. Yes, it's a roll of sorts, but if you roll it, you run the risk of twisting it. I want to keep all these ends together so that I don't end up with twisting of the cuff. One more time, so it makes a little roll. Also, the flatter it is, the easier it's going to be to pull through. Okay, so now you're seeing the top part of the, or actually the underneath of the cuff, right here. Going to reach over and just bring it maybe a little more. If this is bothering you, give it a press. It's not going to hurt it if you crease it. Okay, come over here. You don't. I'm going to pin this. Instead of glue basting it, I'm going to pin it because I may have shifted it. I want to make sure I don't have any twisting. So I match up this end, and yes, it does not matter. I want to match up my fabric. Pin here. Okay, I'm going to go to my sewing machine or serger, and I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch seam along here with a standard stitch length of a 2.5. Okay, here I am at the machine, regular straight stitch. Take my pins out, and I'm just going to sew an even 1/4 inch. Okay, now we're going to turn this right sides out and just simply start pulling it through. It comes through fairly easily. Now, one trick to help it go through, turn this to the right side as you're pulling it through, and it makes it much easier because you're going to end up with a lot of bulk right here. So this, once you get it to the middle, you're just fine. And now I'm going to press this And again, I'm going to get my pressing mat out and I'm going to press it from both sides. I'll start on one side, press that really good, finger press it. For now, turn it on this side and press it this way. Then give it this from this side. It helps to give it another spritz of spray starch and press this down nice and neat. And then I'm going to just cut this so that it is straight. Yes, this is a selvage edge. I'm going to leave it for now. I just want to cut this straight, get any excess off. Same thing on the other side. All right, now we're ready to construct the pillowcase. So I'm going to put this wrong sides together and I'm going to match a couple places. You want to ensure that it is matched very well. And that is going to be right here where the two flanges meet. So I'm going to pin that. And yes, there's quite a bit of bulk there, but that's all right. And I'm going to carefully pin that so that all of these edges are just right. And give it a little extra, few extra pins just to make sure nothing shifts. And the very end, you want to make sure that the embroideries line up. And you can usually feel through. So yes, my embroideries here are lining up. Here, make sure this end is perfectly aligned. And I'm going to sew. My selvage is 1/2 inch. I want to cut that off. It's about 1/4 inch wide. So I'm going to sew 1/2 inch from this edge. And I'll do that at the sewing machine. I'll be right back. Okay, I have sewn this. Now I'm going to trim it about 1/8 of an inch away from the stitching line. This is what is called making a French seam. Here's it right sides together. I'm going to press this all to one side. Then you take your fingers and you can feel the fold. And it wouldn't hurt to press it right where, and this is hard to see on this fabric. Just press that fold flat. Right, I'm going to put a pin on either side of where this cuff is joined to the body of the pillow because there's quite a bit of bulk here. And I'm also going to put a pin here. Okay. And then I'm going to sew 1/4 inch from one end to the other, double tacking at this edge right here, just back tacking there. Usually you want to start in the middle because if you start on the end, you can end up getting stuck and it makes an ugly thread nest underneath. I will be right back. I'm going to go ahead and sew that. Okay, I've sewn the 1/4 inch here. I'm just going to pull it out a little bit on the pressing surface, or you could take this to your ironing board and just press that seam to one side. Again, just like we did before, but now we're dealing with a 1/4 inch seam. Okay, now we're going to repeat the process for the other side. Turn it wrong sides together. And we just want my seam right on one edge. And I'm just going to put very few pins this time. And maybe one here. Now this time I don't have to deal with a selvage. I can't accurately sew in 1/8 inch seam, so I'm going to sew a 1/4 and then trim it down. No need to back tack because it's going to be inside another seam. Okay, I will be back when I sew it. Sewn, I'm going to trim again to 1/8 of an inch. Turn it right sides together. At least finger press it. And when you come to the ends, it helps to have a point turner. Notice here, see how this end folds? That's exactly what I want to happen. This is why we didn't sew the sides and then the top, because of the fact that then you would have all this bulk, and this folds and turns so nicely. Okay, if you like, you can press it. Okay, now I'm going to sew 1/4 inch this way, and look, I have got a very nice flat corner where the seam is. I'll be back when I sew 1/4 inch this way in order to finger press this a little bit. Okay, turn it inside out. Okay, I'm going to use my point turner again. Give it a good press. And look, now that's ready to be given as a gift. And I have a set of 2 of them. It's a nice, easy, inexpensive yet high-end, very classy gift to give someone. It's perfect for weddings, for Christmas, for birthdays, whatever. So if you want a copy of this design right here, which is the continuous border that we used, then send an email request to me at waltzquilt@yahoo.com, and I'll be happy to send you this, and I'll be happy to send you the written instructions on how to create the burrito pillowcase. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you can be advised of all my future videos. Until next time, happy sewing. Bye.